Oh, hi there everyone, and welcome to today's live video. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Linda Booth, and I'm the founder of Just For Tummies. So today we're going to be streaming live on the Just For Tummies Facebook page, in the Tummy Talk Facebook community, on YouTube and on LinkedIn. So whichever platform you may be watching this video on, welcome. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you find it useful, and I hope you can pick up some health tips that helps you manage your IBS symptoms better. So those of you who follow us on social media and who receive our emails will know that this month, April, is IBS Awareness Month. It's also Bowel Cancer Awareness Month. And Just For Tummies, we've been sharing lots of information and advice about IBS, about how to manage and reduce symptoms, and about bowel cancer as well, and, red flags to look out for. Now, today, I'm absolutely delighted to welcome my guest, a lady I've known for several years now, Lynn Butler. Lynn is a reflexologist and a women's health coach and mentor. Lynn's got lots of strings to her bow, and we need to try and stay on topic today because it's quite common for us to, go off on different topics, all health related, of course. I think you will find Lynn absolutely fascinating. I love her. I love reflexology. It's a complementary therapy that I've been having for many, many years, over 30 years now. And it helped me get through a particularly bad time in my life in the early 1990s when I suffered with chronic fatigue. And I don't know where I would have been without reflexology. So without further ado, I am going to welcome Lynn into our video. Oh, and by the way, if you've got any questions at all about IBS, about reflexology, then don't hesitate to post them below this video, and we'll try and cover them live during the video. If we can't, we'll cover them afterwards. So
hello. Hi.
Hello. Thank you so much, Lynn, for giving up your precious time to talk to us today about what you do, in particular reflexology, because as I said in the introduction, when I'm doing my videos, I can go off on different tangents.
Can't we all?
I try to stay on topic if I can. So anyway, how are you this morning? Are you okay?
Oh, fabulous. And something, first of all, thank you so much for this opportunity to just spread a little bit more about the wonderful world of reflexology. Whilst you were just chatting there, I hadn't even kind of considered my journey started because of my dad's, he passed with bowel cancer 18 years ago. And if I'm doing anything, I'm doing this for him today.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you, Liz. So he must have been quite young then, your dad?
He was 60.
Really?
60. He had ulcerative colitis from his late teens. That there was no treatment plan, there was no follow-up, there was just he knew certain foods triggered. So even as kids, we knew that he had something going on digestionally. And it was very quick. So I say it was 2015. He'd gone in for a heart checkup and then stayed in on a medical ward. 2 weeks in, had the diagnosis that he'd had bowel cancer and it was terminal. And 3 weeks later, he'd passed the day before my birthday. And I kept saying to him, don't you dare, don't get to my birthday.
Oh,
but
I'm so sorry, Lynn. I'm so sorry. There is an increased risk of developing colorectal cancer with ulcerative colitis in particular. And I know that some people have taken quite a radical step of having their whole colon removed to remove that risk of it developing into bowel cancer.
Yes.
So let's be careful not to go off at tangents, but I just want to, if you can, tell us a little bit about you, Lynn, and what is your why? Because I know you came from the corporate world when we first met.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, many years, 20 years in retail design, visual merchandising, and we actually met because I was I was just intrigued with what you did. And that was back in 2008 or thereabouts. And I was just starting on my reflexology journey, and just having like experienced the very quick passing with Dad, realized that I was working 1,000,000 miles an hour, driving 1,000 miles a week with my work that I'd adored, but I wasn't recognizing the stress symptoms. And I just thought, I'm going to have to start taking time for myself. And it was a reflexology session that literally blew my mind as to how I thought, how I felt. It was just unbelievable.
An epiphany.
Huh?
An epiphany.
Oh, massively. And it was literally from that experience that I couldn't compute as to how I thought, how I felt, just in an hour's session. And I went on to train in Nottingham with the Caritas School of Reflexology, simply out of curiosity. I had no intention of ever doing it, but it was looking at what had happened to Dad, and always knowing that there's another solution. I never talk about alternative health, even though that's on all these platforms, that's our category, but it's complementary, and it will always work together. Yes. And there'll always be a natural solution to aid. My why is to simply positively affect change in everything I think, do, and say, which has allowed me to develop various tools for the toolbox. But my first baby is reflexology.
Yes, I thought so. Yes. And we met up again a few weeks ago at a women's health event in Sheffield. We reconnected again, and you were doing you were giving reflexology treatments there, but you also had these little breakout sessions, didn't you? Where there'd be a group of people listening to you. And I was in one of your breakout sessions where I think you were talking about, the impact that stress has on the body, and how you can use Meflexology, and we'll come to that later. Meflexology to treat particular points yourself, to reduce certain symptoms. So we'll come to that later, Lynn, if you don't mind. But can you just give us a potted history of reflexology? I think, like colon hydrotherapy and many other complementary therapies, it maybe predates history.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first evidence was found back in around about 2,500 BC. I wasn't there, so I can't quite remember. But it was.
Can I just come in there, Lynn? Maybe you were there, but
well, I'm not going off on tangents, but who knows? Who knows? And it was discovered at a cave painting in Egypt, and it was a practitioner treating somebody's feet. And then how it's developed over the years, it is simply the belief that our bodies are magical anyway, and we have an innate just wisdom and being well. But points over our faces, ears, heads, hands, face, and ears all have maps which then correlate to our entire being. And by what feels like a very thorough massage, we can sedate, balance, and stimulate the different places in the body. It then, and I'll probably come on to this later, expands out into our emotions and thoughts and higher self. But in terms of physical, there's a map where we can literally just gain feedback from the body. Feels like a massage, and it just brings us, if anything, back into our beautiful state of homeostasis, so our natural state of being.
So are we talking about, like meridian lines, energy that runs through the body, and this energy can get blocked at certain points, and reflexology can unblock, those blockages?
Yeah, in really simple terms, yes. I mean, we can look at it in a number of ways. We're using acupressure points. We're using the ends of the meridians. We've actually got 7,000 nerve endings on each foot, which is mind-blowing. And even by knowing that we're going to work with the neurovascular system and just really working those points to allow, whether it's chi, whether it's blood flow, whether it's energy, whatever it is,
what you like. Yes,
it's magical.
It's a life force, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I know when it comes to energy points, when I was practicing colon hydrotherapy, we also have energy points in our colons that correspond to various different systems of the body and different organs. Now, sometimes when I have a reflexology treatment, it can be a little bit uncomfortable. And she finds, I can feel some crystallization there. And she'll work on it until it disappears.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the whole, reflexology is something to be enjoyed, because even the simple act of laying down and relaxing is going to do something. It should never be really uncomfortable, although Eastern methods that differ very greatly now to Western methods. And there's one method in particular called Rochor, which is where knuckles, sticks and stones are brought in to the reflexology points on the feet. And it can make you wince. It's very quick, it's very intensive, but it has the same impact. It has the same effect. But when we're kind of assessing the feet in particular, we're looking at any areas where there's a different skin coloration, where there's a dryness, where there's a difference in texture, even a difference in temperature. And then when we're doing what feels like the massage, so I'm doing reflexology in the air, when we're then massaging, there can sometimes be a buildup of uric acid over the joints. And that's simply just through gravity, sits in the joints on the feet, and by manipulation. And that's the part that can feel uncomfortable, because it's literally the breaking down of the uric acid. This is why one of the things we'd always encourage is plenty of water after a treatment, because like with any form of therapy, we need one to be hydrated, but then just to support our elimination channels to get those like crystal acid back into the body and out. So it shouldn't be a very uncomfortable experience unless you are having stones and
it's not very uncomfortable at all. But I just notice sometimes, that crystallization. I mean, more often than not, when I have a reflexology session, I'm asleep.
Absolutely.
No other complementary therapy sends me to sleep like reflexology does. And it's just wonderful. So if you can tell us a little bit then about what happens during a typical consultation treatment, what someone may expect when they come to see someone like you, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. So typically we'd have a half an hour conversation beforehand, online or in person, just to find out what the main struggles in life are. And it might be physical, it might be emotional, it might be mental, whatever's going on. We can then start to discuss a treatment plan and find out whether we're actually a good fit, because we're not carbon copies of each other, so that there's always going to be somebody for you. And then we would take a very, very detailed, like War and Peace, like history, medical history, lifestyle, everything you could expect with any form of complementary therapy, or in medical practices as well. And that allows us to start to build together a picture of what is going on. And it's sometimes with reflexology, and I know many of my colleagues find this as well, it is not a diagnostic tool. We're working with whole body, not just a condition or a symptom, even though we can allow some relief from that. And, it is intriguing as to what we find. But I would always say, if somebody says, "Oh, what did you find?" My question is always, what were you anticipating me finding? Because a client would typically know. But it is, and there are things that come up, and it's just all about bringing the body back into the state of balance. But detailed history, lifestyle questions, anticipation, expectation around what you'd like to achieve. Because each session can be a different amount of time. And so it's working with that, whether it's a single session or a treatment plan, but just getting a whole body picture before we start.
Yes. And I suppose when you are treating someone with reflexology, you maybe come across something that they haven't mentioned or that they haven't put on their health questionnaire, and you would obviously point that out to them, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
There may be something kind of grumbling away there that, if not rectified, could become more of a problem.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And then the other way as well, one of my areas that I specialized in a few years ago was fertility and maternity, and working with the feet at a time where there's an incoming soul, and you can literally feel the energy change over the uterus, over the reproductive system. It gives me goosebumps to like feel the energy of that teeny tiny soul, the soul on the soul. So yeah, and there might be times as well where it's never to scare.
Can I just come in there?
Yeah.
Sorry. So it's perfectly safe to have reflexology during pregnancy.
Absolutely. Some practitioners choose not to for the first 12 weeks, but it's when you've done the training and you're confident in what you're doing, knowing that, we're working with whole body. And so I work with like prior to conception, all the way through maternity, even those little tiny toes, working with the babies, all the way through everything that could potentially impact our well-being, all the way through to palliative care, which is very special as well.
And can you carry out reflexology on babies then?
Oh yes. Oh, those, yeah. And one of the things, and this is where, yes, we can have babies come in and have the treatment, but typically what would happen is the mum may have gone through a fertility journey with us, then the maternity journey, then the priming for labor, because we don't induce, we're not medical, it's priming for labor. And then it's just meeting that little one for the first time, having seen them on the feet, and working with things like colic, and just working parts of the foot, just so the baby's comfortable. And that's a really easy thing to show mum and dad, or, to show the parents, that they can then take the responsibility. And it feels quite empowering to know that there's just teeny tiny little places to work on the foot of a baby to bring it
so
some
they
relief.
can do it themselves to their baby. Absolutely. Yes. Because I know colic in babies can be very painful, can't it? And can cause, a lot of sleepless nights for new parents, a lot of stress. Yes.
Yeah. Digestion, constipation on babies as well is a fabulous one for pushing everything through.
That's fascinating. I never kind of really think about babies, because I'm always contacted by adults who have problem, stomach and gut problems. So yes, as I've put up on the screen here, we've seen an explosion of digestive and gut disorders, from IBS to indigestion, diverticulitis to diarrhea. But bloating, constipation, and acid reflux are quite common ones. Certainly when it comes to irritable bowel syndrome, I think I would have to say that bloating, in my experience, with people who contact me, painful bloating is perhaps top of the list there. So do you have many people approach you, Lynn, for reflexology for digestive and gut problems?
Yeah, absolutely. The wonderful world that we're in with holistic therapy, typically there is a pain point, and that tends to be physical. So whether it's digestional health or fertility issues, there's always a starting point. And in fact, I'll share, I know we were going to talk later about one of my clients, regular clients that came in yesterday. She comes in regular, and she every time we meet, there's something different. So we meet where we're at. So wherever the client is, this is where I meet them. And yesterday, and I'm okay to share because she's already allowed me to put this out. Yesterday, it was severe trapped wind, and the pain, the excruciating pain that comes with it. So, we did a head to toe, inside out treatment, but then really focused on the large bowel and the transit. And she texts me to say that she passed wind all the way home, which was, it's just.
So which points did you work on then, Lynn, to help expel that painful trapped wind?
So for ease, I'm going to show it on the face because it's a lot easier to do it on self. But on the hands, and I can never remember when we're broadcasting left and right, but it's like having a pair of goalposts that are the ascending, transverse, and descending colon. And you're literally just going up, across, and then down. But on the face, shall I do a quick demonstration?
If you don't mind, yes.
Yes. So again, this is for bringing any digestional comfort, also working with constipation, bloating, trap wind, the pain, and even the not knowing, because as you said, there are so many links to in the gut as well, to every part of us.
Yeah.
So if we were to think about like a pair of goalposts over the mouth and the chin, and what we're doing is coming up the right hand side, so we're going to be feathering, working up the ascending colon. So you can just feather and actually visualize that you're supporting, working through the large intestine. So you're feathering up, and then you're just going to come along the top of the lips, sorry, just come along transverse colon, and then you're going to come down.
It's difficult doing it in front of a camera, isn't it?
It is, because usually we're doing it mirrored, but so the important thing is you're going up the right, across the top, and then down. And it's actually quite relaxing. With the face reflexology, this is one of the maps that the aesthetic benefit, if for want of a better word, a lot of people have facial reflexology because of the manipulation of the face, the skin, the muscles. So it's very lifting. It's not what it's about. No. But if there is a side effect, then we're going to take it. But yeah, up on the right, across, and that will really support. Now, the next question someone would typically ask is, how hard do I press it? For how long? When do I do it? And the body has the answers. The body knows. So if you want to sit for a minute, build it into a face care routine, the answers are incredibly personal.
But that's someone that can quite easily do that on maybe a daily basis. You know, for someone that suffers with constipation and bloated tract wind, they can do that on a daily basis.
Yeah, definitely. And building it into, you know, if a client has a skincare routine, just so that it's not an extra thing on the to-do list, is, you know,
that's a good idea when they're putting the moisturizer on.
Put your moisturizer on, or if you're doing a cleanse, and literally, you know, just come up, come along, just visualizing your entire health and well-being. You know, you might just want to do it for a minute or two, but that's then going to be really supporting everything digestional health.
Okay, then. So say you're on the train or the tram, or you're on a bus, and you don't want to be seen to be doing.
Why not? You get space around.
Where on the hands can you do it then for constipation and bloating tract wind?
So it's exactly the same. So this is where I'm trying to work out back to front, but you're coming up the right hand side. So you're coming up, coming across. So coming up, coming across, then you're going across again, and then down and kind of out. You could even, just for ease, kind of sweep up the side.
Oh, yes.
Across. That's nice and easy. This is a nice one to put your hand cream on. So up, across, down and round.
Down and round. Right. So you wouldn't kind of use your thumb like that then, Lynn, or could you if you wanted to?
You could do, but we want to make everything as easy as possible. We don't want to be adding things on to the list, the never-ending list of things to do. And it's finding your way, you know, and sometimes, if not all the time, if we're nervous or anxious, you know, our bodies are encouraging us, you know, thinking this is like a really strong, both of these are strong meridians. You know, we might do this or we might do this. Our bodies encourage us to work those points.
But that's something that you can do, you know, with your hand on your lap, can't you? No one can kind of see you doing that.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for that. So I spoke to you recently about this, or I may have emailed you. I can't remember now, but I'm getting more and more inquiries from people who are suffering with acid reflux.
Yes.
And with that, and so they have to, more often than not, they're prescribed quite strong drugs called proton pump inhibitors that really should not be taken every day long term because of side effects. So, lots of people are looking for natural solutions to their acid reflux. There's a big connection between acid reflux and diet, and we won't go there. But if you can demonstrate some points, maybe on the face or the hands, where if someone can feel that that acid reflux beginning to, because it's where acid and acid drenched food is regurgitated out of the stomach up the esophagus. So if they can, if somebody's in the midst of a acid reflux attack, are there any points that they can use on themselves to help control that?
Yes, there are, Linda, and they're very simple and easy. So the first one's on the hand. Either hand, again, we don't overthink it, whichever hand. And if we think of like the thumb and the fingers of the head, here coming down is both the trachea and the esophagus. So if you just, let's come back this way, just working down, and you can feel the meaty part of your thumb.
Yeah,
you're just kind of coming down and always down, because you're encouraging that you're encouraging the esophagus not to be inflamed. So that's doing that. And then you're just pushing, encouraging the acid back in. So that's just round this meaty part of the thumb. So that's the esophagus just going down.
Not that side, or can you do it that side as well? It's not.
You can go both. So that's another way to do it. You can do both. But it depends where you're drawn to doing it. But it's just, again,
it depends what feels comfortable for you, I suppose, doesn't it? Yes.
Yeah. There is a point on the face as well, which again is really simple, and that's just here, like on the bridge of the nose. One of the facial reflexology maps, and facial reflexology differs from foot in that the foot only has one map, the face we have 7, and then 100 different protocols. But one of the maps is a body. So you have the head, the arms, the hands, the spine, and then the legs. And so if you just think like working here, let's just pop my glasses down a bit, just working down, you're just again doing exactly, it feels so lovely. Yes, so just working down. So this is literally working from the throat down. And again, you're just encouraging.
That's quite soothing, isn't it?
Lovely, isn't it?
I can imagine that would help people that have like tension headaches as well. Although I'm sure there are more specific points for those.
It's going with whatever. I mean, one of the most beautiful, and I'm going to take my glasses off for this, is literally like squeezing in here. So it's like under the arms and the shoulders. And then pincing all the way along the eyebrows. Again, it's a lovely one to build into a routine that already exists, and just know that, I can tick off, I've looked after myself today because I've done myself a little bit of facial reflexology.
And then, like you say, you can do that as part of your skincare routine when you're putting your moisturizer on, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it can be a bit more boring, I think, putting moisturizer on night and morning. But if you can incorporate something, I know we have to do it, but if you can incorporate something, something else, add something else in.
Yeah, absolutely. Make it easy for ourselves. Make it easier.
So what have we got next? Oh yes, have we covered this? What is different about face head reflexology, and when may you use this over, say, foot or hand reflexology?
Okay, so I think we just touched on it there, that one of the main differences with facial or face reflexology is there are multiple maps. So if we were to take the hand or the foot, there is literally, there are millions of versions of the map, but there is one distinct map and protocols that we follow. And that is taking the head at the top through all the systems, organs and glands down to like the pelvis and beyond. And that's exactly the same for the hand and the feet. When we're looking at the maps on facial reflexology, it's more intricate and complex in that we start with 7 different maps, and then we have 100+ protocols that we might bring in, like sacral, cranial lines and points. So where it would be it comes down to personal preference. It's, you know, some people don't like having their feet worked at all, and you know, so it's a lovely, and it depends what a client is wanting to achieve.
Does it also depend on what symptoms they present with as to whether you would do face, head, or feet?
Yes. So if someone was to come in with anything around the head and the face, so, you know, maybe migraine or sinusitis, congestion or neuralgia, we can very easily work that through all the points on the thumb. But it's, I think, from a client's perspective, to actually have their head and face held, it's the therapeutic element, and we can really massage in not only the reflex points, but help to drain and bring the lymph back in, to pull it through. A lot of it is personal preference. Face reflexology has been around as long, but it's only, I now feel, the last 5-10 years really coming into its own as a standalone treatment, not just
I've heard about it. I've heard about it. I've never had it. I absolutely love the idea of it. Many years ago, I did suffer with sinusitis, and I used to, I used to treat my own. I mean, I'm not a reflexologist, but I kind of just went where the pain was. I just let my fingers guide me, you know, to drain the sinuses. And back then I was doing acupuncture, and I'd also, you know, pop some acupuncture needles in as well. And it was one, but I love the idea of facial reflexology for
to arrange that
rejuvenation as well.
Oh, absolutely. When I trained, it was simplistic, and it was to use just organic rosehip oil, and where that came from was the founder of the face reflexology Sorensen system. Was founded by a fabulous Danish lady called Lone. She traveled extensively, and one of her first places, she was literally with like tribe elders, and they were swapping knowledge, you know, just sat on the floor with a head, you know, in the lap, and they were showing her, obviously not speaking the same language, but just doing it through touch. And, you know, some of these ladies were 80, 90 plus, but their skin, even without sunscreen, was fabulous. And it was what the rosehip seed oil was doing. So I like to keep to the roots and to use rosehip oil, but I might now add something in, so it feels more like a holistic facial. So some steam cloths, some, you know, aura sprays, but I'll always stick to the rosehip seed oil because it feels so traditional and linked culturally as well.
My daughter-in-law is a beauty therapist, and when I go and have a facial with her, she puts the hot steam cloths on, and they've been infused with aromatherapy oils, and it's absolutely wonderful.
And, you know, that's something that we can do at home as well. It's something so simple. Just, we don't need the hot cabinet. We can literally get a face cloth or a flannel, run it under the hot water, squeeze out the water, and then whatever we're guided to, like oil wise, and, you know, even a teeny tiny drop, and just to have it over the face and head. You know, it's ancient wisdom that is ancient wisdom
we need to keep alive.
Yeah.
So, can you give us 1 or 2 examples of, you know, cases you've had in the past where reflexology has worked miracles for them?
Oh, where do I? Well, we've shared my windy client, haven't we? You know, and we've shared a windy client. There's so many, and they're all worthy of being shared in their own right. But I think that the first I might share personal experience with reflexology and our reflexology baby, who's now 5. My reflex, our reflexology baby, in that I'd already started to look into advanced fertility training. I'm, more than happy to I share all the time our story, but I'd miscarried at 40. So I knew that we could conceive, but we were pretty much discounted through the fertility journey here at Jessop's, just because of my age and my hormone levels and egg quality. And, it was like, well, it was emotional, but do we get another dog? Or IVF wasn't an option for us simply because of my hormone levels being pretty much non-existent or too escalating.
Okay.
And I was able to, with the reflexology knowledge that I had, I was just simply sat in the bath, or working on my hands. So the ovary point is here, and I'd work my ovaries, and then I'd work the uterus, and I'd do some of the little protocols. And then in 2017, I was about 8 weeks pregnant when we found out we were expecting. And through doing reflexology on self, I had the most fabulous pregnancy. I adored being pregnant. And then labor was 45 minutes on paracetamol.
No.
And popped her out. But so that, I guess that is part of my story. This is what I get to share, including putting her on a vision board and stuff. But it's, even when we're told no, but by anybody external, if the knowing is there, and the knowing was there for us that we would have a family of our own, it came to light. So fertility reflexology on me was a biggie. There was one of the techniques I also work with is something called RLD. So you might have heard of MLD, so manual lymphatic drainage. Reflexology lymph drainage is exactly the same, but you're working over the feet and you're literally following the lymph system. And where we would really use it to great benefit are clients that have had any lymph nodes removed, mastectomy, recovering from breast cancer. And one of my clients, we did a number of treatments. It was probably only 4, but with RLD, we do get the tape measure out. And especially as she was really suffering with lymphedema in the arm next to where she's had the surgery. And so we would...
Can you just explain what lymphedema is? Because for some, they may not know what it is.
Of course. So it's where there is just a buildup of lymph, a buildup of water around the body. So it can affect, sometimes with health conditions, it can affect anywhere where the lymph nodes are, or if circulation's really, really slow, even though it's a completely different system. So around the ankles, there might be swelling, but especially when there's been any kind of surgery or lymph nodes in the armpit removed, there isn't the lymph, and the lymph's our pushing the water through, and it's very gentle. Because you'd shared recently, hadn't Linda, about the skin brushing, and it's
the skin exfoliating to help the lymphatic system. Yeah. And so when a woman's had lymph node removal under her arms because of breast cancer, then that lymph that's building up can't drain into those nodes. No. So I'm assuming the what you can do with the feet, you can help drain that lymph fluid.
Just push it back into the system, work with the whole lymphatic system, and the results with the client, because we were measuring the before and the after, her non-lymphedema arm compared to there was a 44% reduction in volume of water after her 4 sessions, and that's for the tape measure. So it's absolutely measured, and it's then the emotional side of being comfortable, of not worrying about the size of the arm, not being in pain. So that was another really good example.
I feel very uncomfortable for these women who have got lymphedema in an arm, because it can be so big, and it must be so heavy as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like carrying a bucket of water on your arm, and
I'm just thinking it must pull on the neck and the shoulders as well,
restricting movement.
Yes, yeah. So onwards we go.
Yes.
And I'm sure you see this. There's so much stress, anxiety, people having panic attacks, and these can exacerbate IBS symptoms.
Yeah.
And there's more stress around at the moment than I've ever known in my professional career. So, can you give people a few quick points that, I mean, I used to suffer with panic attacks. I'll share this many years ago, and it was brought on by yeah, it was brought on by stress. It was brought on by me not feeling in control of my own life.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think there's a big connection there with you just don't feel in control. Anyway, I've not had a panic attack for a long time now. I went for reflexology. Uh, because the panic attack started after I had viral tonsillitis, and that's when I had the chronic fatigue and the panic attacks and the depression.
Yeah.
So, points that people can use if they can feel the anxiety, the stress, the panic beginning to start.
Yeah. There's two absolutely beautiful ones. One not so discreet, one discreet. And what you've just shared is key. It's actually just stopping ourselves and being aware of what's escalating and knowing that we can kind of stop ourselves. And it's just having these two tools that are going to bring us back into our parasympathetic state of being. So that's simply rest and digest. If anything, it's a distraction technique, but when we're having a panic attack, we don't actually care if we compress something. So the first one that is more discreet is called the solar plexus, and that's here in the palm of the hands. And how you can find that, you can do it with your finger or your thumb and literally find. And this is on the diaphragm line. The solar
Yeah.
plexus on the body is a meeting point of nerves. It's very powerful and chakra, obviously.
I was just
And
about to say that it's a powerful chakra, isn't it? The solar plexus.
absolutely, absolutely. And so on the hand, you can like squeeze in. If thoughts, feelings, or emotions are kind of escalating, it can feel a little bit sore and tender. Sometimes it can feel like a dip, sometimes it can feel like a bump, but literally squeezing in, drawing soothing circles is enough to bring us back from that flight, fight, or freeze state of being into our calming rest and digest. And we don't need to know all of that stuff. All we need to know is I've got a panic button.
Yeah.
You can do it top or bottom.
On either hand.
Either hand. And again, there are no rules. Go with what your body's encouraging you, whether you're going to do soothing circles or just hold in. It doesn't matter how long. It's a lovely thing. If you've got a stressful day, if you've got an interview, if for any of life situations where you want to just bring and be in control of controlling you, because that's at the end of the day, that's all we can control, isn't it? So that's the solar plexus. And then the other one is a point in facial reflexology, and it's just here, so right next to the ear, and it's like a limbic brain switch off. So the emotional chimp thinking brain, which again can be escalating, and what we're doing, bringing the chimp back in its cage, and all we're doing is just using the first or the middle finger and just sliding it up and down. If I say this isn't as discreet unless you don't care, and then it doesn't matter. But what you're doing is just sliding up and down, up and down. Typically, I'd say maybe up to 15 times, but a lot of clients say that they get to maybe 7 and think, why am I stroking the side of my face? But it feels lovely, doesn't it? It feels.
But they haven't had the panic attack.
No, absolutely. It's like, what was I doing? But that is a lovely one. And that's also a beautiful one to build in, with it being on the face, into the skincare routine.
I'm just thinking as well, Lynn, it's not just stress, anxiety and panic that's affecting adults nowadays. We have a lot of children, don't we, who are really struggling with coping. So I'm assuming that these can be done on children. You can show your children how to do them.
Oh, absolutely. Holding their head and like pulling up the side, encourage them to use the points themselves. I'll just share a very quick story. Last summer, I'd collaborated with an amazing forest school teacher, and we ran a wellbeing day for kids and parents. And we were like creating stories about the reflexology points. And there was one little boy who I'll always remember. He was about 12 years old, and we were talking about the solar plexus. And we were saying, if you're ever in class and you're just having a moment and you recognize you are, and you just want to calm yourself down, you can squeeze in here, have your hands under the desk, no one will know. And he said, but if it's as amazing as you're telling me, why would I not want to tell all of my friends? And it was like, how wonderful to allow these generations that are coming through such mental and emotional resilience. And we know the connection between the brain and the gut health, the mind, but just to know that there are so many supportive tools. And if we can get the kids doing it just so it's just a way of being, then joyous lives.
And it's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's nothing to be ashamed of.
No, absolutely.
When we were chatting last night about today's video, we talked a little bit about EFT, emotional freedom technique, and that phrase that you use, I can do hard things. So again, I suppose, so would this yes, it would help people who are having, who are suffering with stress, anxiety, a panic attack. But again, would it also help people who are in the midst of, say, an IBS flare up?
Oh, 100%.
Yes. So it's like multifunctional.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's just bringing the whole self into parasympathetic. And it's a different approach. EFT, also known as emotional freedom technique or tapping. Some people watching might, have seen videos where people are tapping on points of their faces and their upper torso. And there's 5 points which are literally on the side of the nail bed. And so to do it discreetly, it's like stealth tapping. We can literally just tap on the side, but we know how powerful affirmations are. And this I have borrowed from Glennon Doyle, an amazing author. And one of the affirmations that she shared in one of her books was, I can do hard things. And, so I can do hard things. I can do hard things. And that can relate to anything, hands in your pockets. During the first lockdown in 2020, I was working for a charity doing EFT work with medical professionals, just to give something back. And so many of them went away with this tool because they could like walk up and down the wards and just bring down the stresses.
I can't imagine the level of anxiety and stress in those hospitals during those times.
But this, this with a couple of clients in particular, that they were working in ICU, typically with 2 patients. And at the height, they were working with 30 and 40 on life support machines. They controlled themselves with things like this, walking up and down the wards, going about what they did. I can do hard things. I can do hard things. We can all do hard things.
So, when I am approaching a lift and I'm standing there and I'm pressing the button, waiting for the lift doors to open, I'm going to be doing that.
Do you not like it?
I don't know. I'm claustrophobic. Not severely claustrophobic, but I don't like the idea of being trapped inside. I've never got trapped in a lift before. I don't know where it comes from, Lynn, that fear of being, encased, enclosed in this small metal box. I really don't know where it comes from. Maybe you can sort that out with the another thing we were talking about last night. What was it? The text, I can't pronounce the word.
We're having menopause moments, Linda.
where you go into past lives and you find out if something.
Oh, the soul realignment.
Yes, that's right. Maybe there's something there, I don't know. But I'm going to remember that I can do hard things, and I'm going to.
We can all do hard things. We can all do hard things. We can also do easy things too, which is preferable.
Yeah. So I've received a question, Lynn. Yes, that reminds me of why I had reflexology. Can reflexology help someone that's constantly tired after a virus? And I thought, oh, great, because this is why I decided to go for reflexology, because I had a virus that developed into chronic fatigue.
Great.
So yes, absolutely, it helped me immensely. But what points are you working on? Someone that suffers with chronic fatigue type symptoms.
Yeah, well, we'd be looking at the not just the symptoms but potential causes as well, because it can, it can be so many different like approaches and ways in as to why we're feeling it. With the virus in particular, how we can support ourselves, not just after a virus but on a daily basis, to boost the immune system and boost the upper lymph, is to come down all of these parts.
Okay.
So there is a technique for everything. So that's going to, actually just moving away from the virus, but I'll come back to it, going into hay fever season, squeezing in, this is really going to support.
What does this do, Lynn?
So it's boosting the immune system. So it can, support anything from when you start to be sneezing a lot, from the throat, giving those tingles, and you can literally, it's just helping to move around the upper lymph.
Yes. On both, you do it on both hands, would you?
Yeah, both hands. But reflexology, when we're constantly tired, it's one, the body's probably wanting rest anyway. And so, just to tune in as to, do I want to be an up and out, or am I just happy resting? Because we don't want to force the body into saying, right, let's have some energy. And one technique we could do with that is the spine. So again, on the side of the hand, this is the spine, and you're bringing the energy up. Sorry, we're back. So you're bringing the energy up from the root chakra, and you're bringing the energy up. So it would be like doing Kundalini yoga, any form of like energy work, but that is very uplifting. So you just, and you can do what's called like thumb walking.
That feels quite tender in there. Okay.
And
you will be doing this on a person's feet, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's very, very soothing. And then you've got the spine in the face map as well. So, you can just, actually, glasses off again. So using the thumb edge and literally pull the spine up from the root, the energy up from the root chakra, and then you're pulling it all the way up. So two very quick, easy, simple, and that's the beauty of it.
Would you work on the adrenals as well, the adrenal glands, because there's a big connection between exhausted adrenals and chronic fatigue, isn't there? Where cortisol is constantly being pumped out.
Absolutely. So again, because it's such a tiny gland, finding it, the easiest way is, because you're working around here, around the urinary, is just to rub.
Oh yes. Okay.
So that, you're covering everything there, and again, it's really soothing. Because sometimes the brain can be, oh, is it there? Is it there? Is it there? You're doing it with intent. Yes. You're just encouraging the whole urinary system, and then knowing and the endocrine, obviously, with I just love thinking of the adrenals as those gorgeous little hats sat on top of the kidney. That's what I do when I treat. I just love the little hats on top of our kidneys.
Right. So thank you very much for that. Fascinating. Are there any contraindications to having reflexology?
There are a couple. There are times when we'd work with caution, and that would be we could come round to finding a way of working through either a GP letter or consultant letter, if someone's going through oncology, but it is safe. The only times that we would not treat is with cellulitis and with a diagnosed DVT, because we can just think how powerful it can be. With DVTs in particular, what we're not wanting to do is to encourage flow and to potentially move. But if it's diagnosed and there's a treatment plan in place and the medical support or caregiver is happy for reflexology to take place, then we're good to go.
That's great. Right, thank you. So what is Meflexology? I was, intrigued by this word when we met up again at the Women's Health conference. So what is it?
Oh,
I
could overcomplicate it, but Meflexology is simply reflexology on me, reflexology on self. And it came about over the years of practicing. I don't just start and end with the treatment. I like to look at everything that's come before, wrap up the treatment with aftercare, all these points that we're sharing today. And I'd always say, oh, here's your Meflexology. And it was year before, that I realized, oh, it's an actual word. And so I did a little bit of research and then realized it's a very empowering tool. So it's work in progress at the moment, but lots that we've just shared. There's a book, there's a guidebook, there's like Meflexology little self-care boxes, courses, that there's all sorts coming. Because it was one of those things, it's so simple. And the only reference I could find to it was like a foot fetish lady that was me-flexology. So I thought, I'm going to go with this. And it's just that intuition. And so that's Meflexology is simply everything we've done today, reflexology on self.
So watch this space then.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So how does someone find a qualified reflexologist then?
Referrals, word of mouth. Most practitioners that I know I'm friends with or I have treatments with, it's word of mouth. Everyone knows someone that's been a reflexology guinea pig or case study. There are other websites, so the FHT, the CHNC. I'm affiliated with the AOR, who are the Association of Reflexologists here in the UK, and there is a Find a Therapist page. So you can simply put in your postcode and it will tell you whether they have a treatment space or whether they're mobile. Maybe afterwards I can pop on, Linda, and put a link to the Find a Therapist.
I can do that, Lynn. So it's AOR. Sorry, what does that stand for again?
Association of Reflexologists.
Okay, I can put a link above the video later.
Right, and it's Find a Therapist page.
Find a Therapist, yes, Find a Therapist. Okay, marvellous. And lastly, how do people find you?
Paper aeroplane. The website.
What's your business name and what are your social media handles?
So the Instagram is Lynn Butler UK. I think Facebook is Lynn Butler UK as well. If not, I can very quickly change it to be that. The website's www.lynnbutler.me. Those are my three mains. So Lynn Butler UK and lynnbutler.me. And in each of those, there's contact forms, there's my mobile number, there's email addresses. So yeah, if anybody wants to continue maybe a conversation with what we've talked about today, we can arrange like a half an hour call or meet up. I always say it's a beautiful industry to be in, and we are all so connected and passionate about what we do and why we do it. And I would always say, if I'm unable to help somebody, I will probably know someone that can. I say
the very same thing. If I can't help you, I probably know someone who can. Yeah. Because you build up a network of of like-minded people, don't you?
Absolutely.
And I certainly have done over the past 30 years. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, go on, Lynn.
No, I just really wanted to share, you know, our first ever meeting when I came for a treatment with you, because I was absolutely fascinated. So I came for a treatment with you when I was in Nottingham, and Rich, my partner, was coming to visit me in Nottingham on the weekend. And I remember saying to him, because I've not told him where I was coming, and I remember saying to him, "You're never going to guess where I've been today." And just out the blue, he went, "You've been for a colonic irrigation." I was like, "How did you know?" And he just thought it was the most like unlikely place I'd been, but he was right, because that's where I came and met you.
It was a guess. He guessed, did he?
It was absolute guess. Absolute guess.
Yes, I so loved being a natural health practitioner, loved my clinical work, but it just got too busy with running Just for Tummies and, you know, with having a granddaughter now. So something had to go. And I don't have any regrets on closing the clinic. I mean, I miss all of my lovely regular clients. Of course I do. But yes, something had to go. And of course, I'm still very involved in natural health with Just for Tummies. I absolutely love that.
Absolutely.
So, Lynn, I would like to thank you very much for giving up your time. It's been absolutely fascinating. I'm so pleased that we reconnected again. And so to everyone, thank you for watching, listening, whichever platform you are. I will be sending out this video in an email. So if you receive our newsletters, then you will be receiving this probably sometime next week or the week after. And if you want to explore reflexology more, or emotional freedom technique, soul realignment, what else? Mentoring, coaching, health mentoring, coaching, then please do contact Lynn Butler. She is one of a kind when it comes to complementary natural health. In general. Thank you so much, Lynn. You take care. Okay.
The opportunity. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.